This time we're looking at the winter appearance of alder, birch, blackthorn, hazel, horse chestnut and pine. Alder is a medium-sized tree between 30 and 50 feet tall, very often pyramid shaped, and as you can see from this picture, sort of a grey sort of bud, sometimes tinged with a bit of pink. In the early part of the spring, late winter, you get these wonderful catkins. On some of the varieties there are all sorts of different colours. I'm sure this is the classic silhouette of a birch tree in the winter that probably most people will recognise. The other characteristic it clearly has is this wonderful white bark. The buds are very small, very, very thin twigs, so when you look up close they look like that. And here's one next to a pine tree and a group on the other side of the road. Blackthorn is a very popular hedge in rural areas. It has these really long thorns, a couple of inches long. So very much a keep to the path type hedge, great for keeping stocking. White flowers at the end of the winter, and this is a hedge sort of 4 years old, and a more mature one here along the side of a road. Just keeping pedestrians from straying, and then there's a tree, how it looks in February. I've included hazel in this section on trees, even though it is actually a shrub because it's got multiple stems rather than a single stem. Speckledy bark, that's quite typical of hazel. Then in the early part of the winter you get these female flowers, the red little flower, tiny flowers, and the male catkin. This is a young horse chestnut, probably 20 years old, but very, very clear idea of what these sticky buds look like. We all remember sticky buds from when we were kids, probably in a jam jar in a school classroom somewhere. So that's a classic shape of a chestnut, or horse chestnut. The shape of a mature pine is very unlike that of the young one, which is, as you can see, is very regular conical shape. When they get a little older they tend to shed their lower branches. Scots pine has 2 needles in its little bunches. Pines have 2, 3 or 5 depending on what they are. This is a 2-needle pine and is a common native tree. Here is a good example of what the pine cones look like. They're quite small when you compare them with the spruce that we looked at last time. These are only a couple of inches long, 3 inches tops.
For more information, visit www.priestgate.co.uk.